There are millions of real estate investors out there, and most are stuck with just a couple of properties. They want financial freedom, but their small portfolio ends up costing them more in time, effort, and money than it's worth. Getting out of the rat race seems harder than ever. This show will help you do more deals, better deals, and bigger deals. Finally, you'll be able to reach your income and lifestyle goals. How? By attracting and leveraging private money partners and their capital. Now get ready to raise more money, because here's your host, Dave Dubeau.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Another exciting episode here. And today we've got a couple of real estate rock stars with us, a real estate power couple, power team. These guys have flipped over 1,000 properties since first getting started way back in 2007. And I'm talking about none other than Glenn and Amber Schworm. You guys, how are you doing? Welcome to the show.
We are awesome. Thanks for having us, Dave.
Yeah, thanks. That sounds like a lot of houses when I hear you say it.
It sounds like a lot of houses when anybody says it. That's more than I can count on all my fingers and toes. So you guys, let's just, for folks that aren't familiar with you, how did you get into the wild and wonderful world of real estate investing, and what got you into flipping?
Desperation.
Yeah, desperation. Yeah. When we started, we bought our first rental property back in 2003. I actually bought my first rentals back long before I met Amber, back in the late 80s, with simple assumption loans.
Wow.
And I bought those. And so I had those, but I actually lost those in foreclosure. I went bankrupt. I was a young man. A young kid, I would say. I was in my early 20s, 21, something like that, 22.
When you think you're an adult, but looking back, you realize you were still a kid.
Right. Yeah, right. Yeah, for sure. And so that I kind of got gun shy for a while and stayed away for a bit. And then when Amber and I connected, we bought our first rental in 2003. That was a bad experience. We try to be landlords. We try to do the usual way people do it, right?
Yeah.
That aren't educated, if you will, like people that are saying, I'm just going to be a landlord. And then you're like, this sucks. And so we did that. And that was a bad experience. And then we decided to start flipping because we were both going through divorce from our spouses and $80,000 in credit card debt. Amber married me for my money.
Oh yeah.
And then, and so
I thought it was for the looks, for sure. They're glad.
Oh, sure. Yeah. No, it's purely for the debt. She wanted someone with a lot of debt. That's what she was looking for. So she wanted to really help somebody. So she found me. So
that's what my wife did with me.
What
too.
Loser can I actually really help? Because this guy's really pathetic.
Women like to fix us guys, man. So we gave her a lot of raw material.
I gave her a lot to work with. That's all.
I'm flipping him. I'm flipping him.
Yeah. We always say she takes something ugly and makes it look pretty. I go, like me. That's what she's working on.
Oh, still a work in progress, though.
So, anywho, so we started that in 2007. We did our first house. The funny part of it, Dave, we go to this workshop, and there's 8 people in the room, and we're 2 of them. So there's 6 other people besides us, plus the speaker. The speaker, he's talking like he's this big shot. I'm thinking, yeah, your room's not so big, not that big. Yeah. But he was driving me nuts, slurping his water. He was an annoying speaker, but he looks up and says, you know what? To be successful in real estate investing, you have to go in houses that she'll never go in. And he points at Amber. We're in the front row. Now she's dressed up. It's date night. We're going to go out to dinner after this thing. And I'm looking at him thinking, now we hadn't flipped the house yet. So in fairness, we had no track record. I thought, buddy, you have no idea who you're talking to, but that's okay. Because I had been shoving her through doggy doors, and she's right in the trenches with me. And, she fits in spaces I can't fit into. So we started. We flipped our first house, made 17 grand. We 2007.
Did you learn something from this guy, or did you just kind of go in with trial and error?
We learned to be careful who to listen to.
Yeah.
One of Glenn's favorite expressions is be careful who you take advice from, because you might end up just like them.
Yeah.
And so, like I could have easily taken what that guy said and let it beat me down and think, that could have given me a lot of self-doubt. And, maybe because of the way I look, maybe I won't be successful, but it also goes to show you, don't judge a book by its cover.
Yeah,
because you never know what is in somebody internally, that
that served as a little bit of a negative motivator for you. It's kind of like, screw you.
I think for both. Because that guy still is in our. So we live in Florida. We're still doing 100 deals a year up in New York because our team still functions up there. So we were remote. We're not really active in the day to day, and we've been very blessed there. And but that guy is still a realtor in the upstate New York. He's just a realtor now. He's not really flipping houses. So it kind of cracks me up when I see him trying to make an initiative for stuff. I think, well, here we are, 1,000 deals later. But so from there, though, Dave, the good thing that he did was he put together a training of a woman who had done 250 deals. And we drove to Connecticut to hear her speak. And I remember sitting in the audience going, that's ridiculous. 250 houses is ridiculous. And now when I hear you announce us, I think to myself, I still go, is that right? But then I think to myself, our company does 100 deals a year. Like it started off with one. Amber's big to say, hey, it all started with one.
Yeah.
And so it was one deal, then it was 3, then it was 7, then it was 20, then it was 40, then it was 7, and then it got to be this, we've been on this 100 a year grind for a while. And these are wholesales. They're maybe 70% wholesale, maybe 20%.
Oh, okay. So you're not doing 100 full-on flips, renos, the whole thing. Got it.
Well,
transactions.
But we've done 30, 40 flips in a year, like full on renovations.
Well,
So,
about 50 our biggest year,
that
right?
was our biggest year.
Our biggest year was 50 flips, actual full on gut,
My
that.
God. You must have had a whole crap load of teams going. And I mean,
we did.
Yeah, we kind of wanted
It was
to pull our
insanity.
hair out though. That was a lot when you don't have exactly the right people in place. But I think to most people though, that sounds a little overwhelming. And so I like Glenn said, I think it's really important for people to remember it started with one. And it just kind of grew organically from there. So you don't have to start out. And a lot of people don't even want to start out building a huge business that even does 50 a year or 30 a year. Some people, if they flip 2 houses a year, that they would make more doing that than they would in their full-time job.
Right.
So it's not like you have to go, crazy doing this to make a really good living. And if you want to, that's always an opportunity.
Dave,
So you guys, what's your definition of a flip?
So buying, actually owning the house, and most of the time making repairs as few as possible and then selling that house for a profit, right? So if we actually own it, right.
Yeah.
So it could be, we certainly have homes, the sweet deals is when you buy it and sell it. Like those are, so sometimes you find those, right? You just buy it and sell it because it doesn't need much, or it needs the yard cleaned up. Very basic, $1,000 worth of stuff. Yeah. Then you got the houses. The more common are just the cosmetic, right? You go in, you put new kitchen, new bathrooms, new flooring, paint it up, good to go.
I mean, it's pretty much a definition of what you would see on TV, like on a TV show.
But we've certainly done
but we've done everything in between,
guts and all that stuff too.
But at this point, you're doing a variety of things. You're doing a combination of some flips, some wholesale deals, a few buy and holds sprinkled in there as well.
Oh yeah. We're always adding to our rental portfolio, both long and short-term rentals. So we're always doing that. Yeah. So it started because we were doing marketing, right? We started doing ads on TV back 10 years ago before it became popular. And so we were doing that a long time ago, and we had never wholesaled a deal. Now, as you know, wholesaling is ridiculous. Everyone and their brother's a wholesaler. We were doing it, 10 years ago. We bought a house, and the next door neighbor called and said, hey, I'll give you 15 grand for the house. We just bought it. I go, what? She's like, oh, she wanted to give us 10 grand more. And I said, no, give me 20. And then we settled on 15. And I looked at Amber and said, well, that was interesting. Like we didn't even touch the house.
That was way easier than fixing the damn thing up.
Yeah. And then we started stumbling onto the world of, we used to turn away deals all the time. So we were like flipping snobs, right? We would say, no, our buy box is in this town, it's in this size, it's in this price range, and that's it. We were very strict on that, which is fine. But we're getting calls like for things in the inner city and other places that I said, no, thank you. And I would literally hang the phone up. Meanwhile, not thinking, how much did I pay for the phone call to come in the first place?
Right. And there somebody else who would love to have that deal?
Yeah. Well, I grew up with a guy, kid who's my age, because he's a guy now, but I grew up with him. We played a little leagues together, whatever. His dad, I remember they owned about, they still do, about 100 houses in a really ghetto part of town, like really dangerous. And I remember stories of him talking. He came to school and talked about cleaning up brain matter where there were gang killings in their property. I'm like, you're insane. But to the point, he loved it.
Yeah. That was his
their
niche.
world. It
Not
was
a lot of competition. Yeah.
Right. And so one day I told them, I go, people buy this crap. So we would get a lead in, and I would go under contract with it. And I would take that contract and go to somebody like him and say, hey, listen, you want to give us, it started out being $5,000 a house, then 10, then 20. Our average wholesale split's about 18 grand. Now we've done some as high as 75,000 just for shifting paper around.
Mm-hmm.
And then we started to turn that more into our business model. We're like, okay, we got to help pay for marketing. That's what it started. Like, and then one year we did like 100 grand, and then we did 400 grand. Then now we're doing about 1.5 1.2 something million a year in wholesale splits probably. And it really helps pay for the office.
Yep.
Without that, I can't pick the pretty ones. You know what I mean? So we get to sort through and find the better ones and the rentals and everything. And
I think what holds a lot of people back though is they don't know what they don't know, and one is fear. They don't get involved because they're just scared of the whole idea of it. And then two, some people are scared of success, some people are scared of failure, some people just don't have the knowledge. And then number two is the lack of money, which money is actually the easy part. And I'm sure Glenn will dive into that in a minute. But sometimes like we even get talking about marketing, there's even people that'll give us like a bad rap on like our Facebook ads, for example, like, oh, you guys are coming in and not making it affordable for regular homeowners and stuff. And most of the kind of houses we buy aren't the type of houses homeowners would even be interested in. They're houses that are very dilapidated. They're almost unlivable. We help the neighborhood by bringing up values. And there was even a few times we bought a house for $1. And some people might say, oh, you took advantage of somebody if you bought the house for $1.
Not if you sell the house.
Yeah.
That person, the people that sold us the house for $1 were so grateful to us because they didn't want to have to pay the taxes. It was a house they inherited. It was in the hood. They didn't want to have to pay the taxes on it, $4,000 or $5,000 a year.
We had to clean out many carcasses of dead animals in that thing too. That was not a pretty. Was not pretty. Made $5,000 on that deal, but yeah.
Like my point to all of that is like we are really doing a service to people. We're helping people, not taking advantage of them. We really strive to create win-win scenarios for our buyers and our sellers. So we're creating that win-win. We're helping neighborhoods. We're bringing up values. We're helping the town. So it also has that really feel to it. But as far as like the money goes, that's the other thing that really holds people back. And money is the easy part. People think it's the hardest part. Money is definitely the easy part.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about how you guys fund your deals. And then, because at this stage, you've got so much experience, so many deals under your belt, somebody watching this might think, okay, well, that's easy for them. So how do most of your students fund their deals when they're getting started? So let's start with what you get, or whichever way you want to go at it.
Can I tell you how we started, how we got into this? Because when we first started back in 2007, there were still loans available, right? You could still get a loan, and then we used credit cards for the renovation process. Because banks will only give you, back then the first deal, I think we got 90% of the value of the house, but then we had to come up with the other 10%. So we figured it out with credit cards. That's how we did it, and lines of credit. So really it was still none of our own money, but we did the first two deals that way. And the third deal was in 2008. Banks had all shut down. And I called my buddy and said, hey, good friends, like played racquetball with the guy, with my mortgage guy. I said, hey, I needed one of those loans. He goes, yeah, there's no more. I go, yeah, but you got one for me. He goes, I got none for anybody, not even for me, man. I got nothing. And I'm like, yeah, but this is me. He goes, it's not me. He goes, are you reading the paper? I'm like, no. He's like, the world is shutting down. Like, there's no more money in 2008. We had 2 houses under contract, like to flip. And we had put money into them. We had already had work in not work, but mental work, deposits. And we had contractors looking at the house. And I remember going, holy crap. I have 2 good deals, which would have netted us a 100,000 profit of 50,000 each. 50 and 40, maybe, I think it was back then. And I remember thinking, okay, we can do this. And I'm thinking, now we can't fund it. I'm screwed. And literally I had to figure out, where do I find money from? And because the banks, it was not there. And I didn't have any wealthy friends that I knew of. And I was walking one day and I was listening to my CD player. That's how old I am, right? So, but yeah, somehow that sounds old. I don't know how that sounds old, but that's old.
Exactly.
I also had cassette tapes back in the day. What are you talking
about? Yeah, I still got one of them.
So I'm listening to a CD that I got. It was some random, it was kind of scratched, and I don't even know where I got it. But it was a guy talking about how he raised money by asking his circle of influence for money, and kind of, and I was like, private money. What the heck is private money? And there was really I shouldn't say there was no internet back then, but it wasn't nothing like it is now, where you type it in, you have a billion different answers. It's not like that. And I didn't have that. I remember we lived in a 2-bedroom condo, and I'm like, I remember walking in the parking lot going, So we put together a packet that explained that we had done 2 deals. We showed before and afters. We showed our profits. And then I said, I'm looking for private lenders to pay. And at the time I was paying 14% and 4 points. I didn't know that you could do it for cheaper. Now We now pay 10.
Money got a lot cheaper as we went along.
Yeah,
For
Now it's getting
our
more expensive
experience.
again, yeah.
But I reached out and I sent this packet out to about 40 people. And I think the secret for me was I didn't ask them for money. I asked them who they knew. That was the
smart.
genius in it,
Side door
because
approach.
it was this, I call it the side door approach. That was the genius in our model, because when I did that, you know, I remember calling some guys I golf with. I was like, "You get my packet?" Like, "Yeah, pretty impressive. You know anybody?" Nah. So I'm not rejected, right? When they say no, I go, "Okay, cool. Well, let me know." And then I went and met some people and I don't know anybody. But then the first investor we had was a woman that Amber was going to the gym with. And she said to Amber, "Hey, I heard about, I got, you know, I think you gave her one. I think you gave her a packet."
I think so, yeah.
And so it was very, she said, "Hey, if you know anybody." And so she said, "Boy, I don't know anybody, but I sure wish I could do this." So my brain doesn't stop working. I can't help it. You're an entrepreneur, you know. If you're an entrepreneur listening, right, you know, your brain doesn't shut off. And I'm like, she wants to do it, wants to do it. So I said, "You know, they have a really nice house." I'd been to their home before. I go, "They have a really nice house." And they're always doing crap on their house. They're always fiddling on the weekends. They're always
A lot of
building
sweat
this.
equity.
I knew they had, so I called her and said, "Hey, Janie, do you guys have equity? Because you're always piddling around your house. It's beautiful." It's not, and she said, "Oh yeah." I said, she says, "Worth probably 400 grand. I said, "What do you owe?" She goes, "A couple $100,000. I go, "So do you have a home equity line of credit?" She goes, "We do." "Why?" I said, "Do you use it?" She goes, "No." I go, "Do you want to?" She goes, "I don't know. What do you mean?" I said, "So what's your rate?" She said, "I'm paying 4%. I said, "What if you loan us 100 grand and I paid your monthly payment? So it's $350 a month." I said, I'll pay your monthly payment, and I'll pay you 14% for the money you're loaning me that's not even your money." She said, "What?" I said, "I'm just throwing it out there." I said, "You have access to money. Let's have a conversation." And we did. We wrote up a mortgage. We did it the first deal, and she actually got 4 points and 14% for those first 2 deals. Then we removed the points after that. We backed her back to 10%. But Dave, that we did those first 2 deals and made our 50 grand each. So we had money from that investor to buy one house. Because I got one other one, this is the funniest one. My biggest investor called me. I hadn't talked to him for 3 years, 4 years. I would get emails periodically, and he called up, and I love him. He's a good friend, but he's a little bit curmudgeon-y at times.
Yeah.
And he calls up and he's like, what the hell are you doing now? What is this thing I got in the mail? I go, "Well, you know, it's real." He goes, "What do you know about real estate?" I go, "Well, a couple things. I did a couple of houses." You know, he's like, "That's the worst time to be in real estate." I go, "Why are you calling me?" You know, he's like, "Well," I'm like, "Well, you know." So I go, "Who do you know?" He's like, "Well, what about me?" And that was the genius, right? I didn't ask him.
Yeah.
I always say to people, Dave, I'm like, you know, if you've walked through a mall recently, you know that when you walk through the mall and those people come out with those little packets they want to hand you, what's the first thing you say?
No, thank you.
It could be pure gold. And you're like, "No, thanks. I don't want any gold today." You don't even know what it is. You just say no.
Yeah.
And so I think by removing that rejection piece, we took off, and he called and said, "Okay, I'll fund this other one. Who's this Janie girl? Let me talk to her." And Janie hadn't even done a deal yet. I don't think. He's like, "Yeah, I know these guys." He's like, "I know him too, but I don't know if you know him in real estate." And he was asking lots of questions. And so he went from funding one deal to, we actually bought 2 more in that same time frame. While these 2 were under construction, we bought 2 more, and he funded 400 grand worth of flips. We had caught him at the perfect moment. He was panicking because of the recession. He sold off 800 grand worth of stocks for 400 grand. So he was in a cash position now. He had taken a loss. He was terrified. And thus began our career. Now we have about $5 million worth of private lender funds that we use for our flips. Now your other question was, what do our students use?
And then,
Well, no, I want to dig in this, because that was a brilliant tactic that you guys did there.
Yeah.
It reminds me of what we get our clients doing, which I call the ninja approach, which is very stealthy kind of ideas as well. So it's not so much sending the whole package out to people and saying, "Hey, do you know?" It's reaching out to people in your sphere saying, "Hey, can you do me a favor? I've put together a presentation about what I'm doing with real estate. I really could use a second set of eyes to take a look at it."
Great
And
idea.
you jump on Zoom, or you meet them face to face. You walk them through your, in our case, slideshow presentation about everything that you're doing with real estate. and get their feedback, right? And they're going to say, well,
Right.
you should change the color on slide 14 and you misspelled a word here, whatever, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And then same idea at the end, say something like this. Hey, Glenn, Amber, I know this probably isn't a fit for you, but do you know anybody else who might be interested in this kind of a deal?
Yeah. Yeah, it's the best, right? Yeah, no, it's
Exactly.
great. Yeah, get that, because people love giving their opinions. I always love when you're doing stuff like that. People are like, yeah, you should change the color. And I would change this side. You're thinking, just shut up. Do you want to give me a check or not?
Yeah, what do you know about this stuff?
Did you not understand what I'm really doing here? Come on.
But I
And
think
then they
that-
go, really, you can really get those kind of returns on a deal? Yeah.
Yeah.
Et
I
cetera,
think
et
the
cetera. So
other-
that's brilliant. I love how you guys did that. But I want to go back. So that second guy, your first big investor, how did he know about the other investor? When he called up, you said, we got somebody else on board already,
Correct.
kind of? So it's almost a
Correct.
scarcity thing. It was like,
it kind of happened that way. Yeah. And the funny part was okay, let's really dive in some details.
Yeah.
Then he said to me, well, look because in my packet, it says, if you know anybody, I'll give you a 1% finder's fee of the first amount that they give me. So if they give me $100,000, I'll give you $1,000,
mhm.
right? And I knew he was a former network marketer. That's how I knew him. So I knew he had a lot of people. So he understood the concept, but he got pretty clever. So he said, I don't want 1%. I want 1% in perpetuity. So as long as that client is a client, I want a 1% override. And I'm like, you son of a gun. And so I agreed though, and he raised about $3 or $4 million.
Wow. So he brought
Because
in his
he did.
contacts.
He did, who are also curmudgeon old guys. That not all of them, but they come in and they wanted to come up and remember they come to our.
met us.
They came and met us. We toured properties and they wanted to see who we were. If we're full of crap, all that. They wanted to vet us.
Yeah.
And they
yeah.
did. And those little investments turned into bigger. They was, funny how people find more money once they start to trust you.
Exactly.
They cash this deal out. They sell a house over here. They get little home equity. They
use a lot of our investors use self-directed IRAs.
right,
Yeah.
correct. And that's how he uses. Yeah.
And so were you securing them on title? Were you putting them on title,
No.
second mortgage type thing, promissory notes?
Mortgage.
What were you?
Yeah,
Huh?
mortgage and note, and insurance, but
Mhm.
we still retain title to the house. They asked that over the years. Sometimes I said, no, I don't want you on title. I said, you don't want to be on title. You don't want the liability being on title. Somebody sues you, they're going to take my house from me. So I don't.
Right. So basically they're secured via second mortgage. Is that what I'm
well,
understanding?
first mortgage.
Oh, so they're financing the whole thing.
Yeah. So
That's
what
right,
we do, so this is interesting, right? So what we do, because I know your crowd, I see the money partner formula behind you. So your crowd's all about money, which is great.
Raising capital. Yep.
Yeah, we raise everything up front because
Got it.
like I take the renovation the purchase and the renovation and some of the holding costs up
Mhm.
front. And for the most part, I don't pay my investors until I cash out of the deal. Then I pay
Balloon
them everything
payment.
at once.
Just,
Now,
yeah.
some need monthly payments. Every now and again, people need a month, and that's okay. If someone need a monthly payment, we go ahead and do that. But we try not to, just from a cash flow perspective.
Mhm. Smart.
So
And typically, I mean, you're in and out of these, especially at this stage, fairly quickly. Back then, how long was it taking you to do one of these flips?
we want to discuss our worst story, or do we want to discuss?
Well, I mean, like the first few, what were
On
you
average,
averaging?
I'd
Were
say
they
3 to 6 months
Well,
on average.
in the beginning, and then we got cumbersome with our team, right?
Yeah.
We started building a team, so it wasn't going as fast as. So, some pitfalls when you're doing multiple deals. You could talk on that. We sort of got behind the 8 ball because we weren't
Yeah.
managing at worth the crap at all. So some of those deals taking a year to do.
Well,
And then we're losing our hide.
when you first start out, you're wearing all the hats.
Yeah.
You're doing the negotiating, you're doing the project management, you're doing the books, you're doing, the first 3 houses we even did the work on. We learned that lesson real quick. You make a lot more money when you hire it out.
My back still hurts
So
15 years later.
So as we definitely had some growing pains, when we started doing 10 houses at once and we didn't have the teams in place to do that.
Yeah.
But I think going back to the money part, one thing that was really interesting to note for people, and I think you probably touched on it too, was Glenn said, none of my friends had money.
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
That wasn't
Yeah.
You
true.
just don't know it.
That wasn't true.
Exactly.
That wasn't true.
That is such a misconception everybody has. I had that back in the day as well. And it's like,
Yeah.
quite often it's the person you least expect.
Yes.
Yes.
And you guys have probably seen this all the time, all flash, no cash.
Yeah.
Right? You got those people. And then you got the humble folks that have been
Yep.
shoveling it away or wisely investing and living under their means. And there's 100,
Yes.
200 grand right there.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
when you can tell people the different ways that they can invest with you, really you become an educator. You educate and say,
Yeah.
look at, do you have an IRA? Well, because not every IRA is going to qualify to move to a self-directed IRA if you're currently work or 401ks, that kind of stuff. But depending on what it is, we quickly figured out how to help people get into a self-directed IRA and help them manage that process. And that's allowed them to go,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
People are like, I have no money to invest. I got $500,000 in my IRA. Well, but they think that's the
Well, of course, it's they don't know, right? They don't know what they don't know.
And when
Or
they
they got $200,000 in home equity, like your first investor, right? So they don't know they can use
don't know.
that. Right.
And the bulk of our investors are not these savvy, multi-million dollar investors. These are mom and pops that just
Yeah.
have their life savings and they would rather put it with someone like us that's steady. But one thing that's really, really important for anybody that is an investor that's going to take somebody's money, always do right by your investor.
Absolutely.
So like even the houses where we've lost money on,
We paid.
our investors were whole.
Yeah, our fifth house, we lost like $4,000 on the deal because we made some errors. That's a whole different podcast. We made some errors and it took longer to sell than we expected. And we had to sell for less. It was wintertime, whatever. And the market was kind of going south in 2009 or ish or eight or nine, and not kind of going south. It was south. So, we lost that money, but I remember telling my investor, he said, how'd you do? I said, we lost money. He said, okay. I said, we lost money because we paid you. And he laughed. He goes, well, I get the money. I go, I'm not complaining. I said, without you, I don't have the deal. I said, but I think that moment of truth that he knew, no matter what I said, no matter what happens, and I tell all of our students, I say, come hell or high water, you pay off your investor. Because if you build that will be the best investment you ever make. Because when they see that you value them over the money that you could make on a deal, because if you say, hey, I lost 10 grand on this deal, so I'm just going to not pay you the 10 grand. Can we negotiate that? You'll lose that investor.
Oh, for sure.
They're going to eventually go, nah, I don't want to invest. I can go in the stock market and have that kind of roller coaster. I don't need you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So for me, I feel like even if you lost 50 grand on a deal, you find that money and you pay that investor out, because now you'll have an investor for life and you'll make tenfold on the money that you think you lost on that. And I think it's important for our industry, Dave, what you do and what we do, that people always operate with integrity when you're handling people's money. I mean, don't wind up on America's what's the show? American Greed.
Yeah.
Don't wind up on one of those shows because you're an idiot and you take money from people. Like you treat their money like it's your mom's or your money, your grandmother's, or whoever's the most important person in your life. If you treat it like that and you make sure they get paid, I think you'll attract more and more people. And we're at a point now where we don't need any more money. Well, it's funny, when you're doing a lot of flips, sometimes like right now we have a bunch of money sitting, we have to get invested. We're like, we got to figure that out. Then sometimes we don't, but most of the time we never have a need to go out and look for more money,
No, you've got your pool of investors. They're not going to go anywhere. They just want to keep reinvesting with you. That reminds me that's a great point, Glenn, because one of the exercises I take people through is what I call the lifetime worth of an investor. How much an investor is worth to you in net profit in your pocket over the lifetime of you working with that person.
That's a big
So in
number.
addition to just it's the right thing to do, the ethical thing to do, even if you have to go negative like you guys did on that deal to bring your investor whole, like you said, in the long term, when you understand in cold hard dollars and cents how much that person is worth to you, it's huge. And like if you guys crunch the numbers on how much that second investor guy that brought everybody else on board for you, how much value he has created for the two, it's mind boggling.
It's tens of millions. It's a staggering amount of money when you look at it that way. It's a really, really good point, Dave, to look at it that way, because there's so much. They are the lifeblood. I didn't realize how important. Well, I do. I always knew they were important, but a few years back, we were maxed out. We had all 5 million invested and we were buying more houses and we had more renovations. We had to go get a loan from a hard money lender. So we signed up for hard money lender, the process. And so this is going to sound so funny to your listeners, but I remember going, application. All right, whatever. I don't do applications, but so I do an application. Then they want, I got to personally sign for it. well, I don't want to do that. Okay. And like, I'm like, what is all this paperwork? My
Yeah.
God, what are all these closing costs? What are all
And
these
that's
lawyer
not
fees?
even a bank. That's a hard money lender.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I laugh at it. And so like I done it and then I go, you guys just don't understand. I'm so spoiled now because I don't even talk to my investor anymore. I mean, I do if they call me, but my team reaches out, sends them a text and says, hey, we need 150 for this house. We need 210 for this house. I'm going to move your money out of here. And it's just such a process now that's so simple for me. And I forget sometimes. So every now and again, last year we had to go back and get hard money for like maybe $1 million worth of houses. We had a bunch of stuff coming in. You know, when you're buying houses, you can't determine when they come in. Sometimes
Right,
you have
yeah.
5 in a month, sometimes you have nothing that month. So, and we had all that, we had like 5 big renovations going on, and it was or whatever it was, about $1 million. And I just was like, man, you guys want a lot of paperwork from me. And they're like, this is normal. What are you talking about? I'm like, not for me, it's not normal. So yeah, so the private lender base is the best. Private lender base is the best way to go because it's so simple.
Yeah, this is fascinating, you guys. So now, what are you guys seeing that your students, or what are you showing your students to do when it comes for them financing their deals, them finding their own private money? Are they doing the same thing you guys did?
So I always encourage that, but people want to go with what they think the path of least resistance is. So we provide them with a couple of lenders that work with us, hard money lenders, that they get started. But I tell them right out of the gates, you got to start looking for that private lender right away. And also in this market, I'm encouraging them to start looking for creative financing ways. Like how can you take over? Can you do a subject to? I know we won't dive down that path, but can you take over an existing mortgage at 2.6%? Because that's going to be a much better deal for you. Now, one thing that we do, maybe I could share with your listeners if that'd be okay with you. We JV on deals. Now, this is not, we did this on our
third house, I think.
Yeah. You want to tell the story?
So we came across this house, and this is going back 15 years, so I may not remember all the details, but nice couple, and they had inherited it from their mother who passed away. And the house was really, it was pretty much a hoarder house, and
just
so
a disaster.
the numbers just didn't make sense for us to buy it though. So
remember what we did? We gave them 2 offers.
Right.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
This or that. Yeah.
I do. If you don't, yeah. So we sat down at the table with them. Now, mind you, we're pretty new investors. We don't have cash built up yet.
Yeah.
And I sat down at the table and I said, okay, Chuck, I said, I'm going to give you 2 offers. So in my mind, I'm thinking, let's go with a choice close, right? The choice close, if they have, if your listeners, if they have 2 choices, usually they'll pick one instead of saying no.
Exactly.
And so I said, I forget the numbers. I think it was like, we can give you 50,000 or 45,000 or 50,000 in cash.
Yeah. Low bulk, all cash offer.
Yeah. Or 60,000 if we can do a creative deal with you, if we can pay you when we sell the house. And he said, what's that one? And I'm thinking, thank God, because I don't have 50 grand in cash. And I didn't know where I was going to get it from, right? I didn't know. So my other investors I didn't have other private investors lined up, and I'm like, they're all tied up in those houses. I don't know. And we struck a deal where the house, and stay with me on this one, the house stayed in their name.
Yeah.
Right. We then have an agreement in place that gives us what I would call reasonable access to the house. Mm-hmm. We took over we said, you keep paying the insurance payment and you keep paying the taxes. Thanks. Yep. Taxes. Okay. We will keep the house up, maintain it. We're going to fix it at our cost. So on our nickel, we're going to fix it. We use credit cards for that part of it, for almost all of it. I said, then we're going to handle the sales process. We're going to handle everything at the closing table. We get whatever's left over. You get your check for 60 grand and we get whatever's left over. So we did that whole deal. So the cool part is we never owned the house. Now, is it risky? Yeah, you got to make sure you pick the right seller for this deal. But this was a couple that we had a good feeling about them.
Plus, you probably secured yourself with some sort of an option on title or something like that, I would imagine.
I forgot what it was back then, but my lawyer did something to that effect where if they decide to, but the truth of the matter is though, I'm already fully invested. If I redo their house and I have legal documentation, I still have to sue them and try and get my rights to the house.
We still have 30 grand into it with renovations.
Right. And so it's a little bit, no matter what you do in that situation, it's not ideal.
Yeah.
But I didn't have to come up with any money to do the deal. Mm-hmm. So we sell that house. I'll tell you what was, I want to tell your part, because at the closing table, their check was 60 and ours was 93,000. Because we said, I was awkward for a minute, but They said, well, I remember them saying, well, we know how much you guys put into that house.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, we did a lot. Now we made like 63,000 profit, but this is a key point I want you to know. So go ahead.
Yeah, so we're sitting there at the closing table and they get their check for 60 grand. And I look over at them and I say, what you gonna do with that 60 grand? And they're like, well, we don't know. So they are our investors to this day. And not only did they invest that 60 grand,
Yeah.
but they took all of their other stuff that was in their
Yes, IRAs.
and everything, and they now invest all
Yes.
that with us today.
Yes.
But
Oh,
15 years
that's sweet.
later,
So
still our investors.
the value of that one deal that we structure on a creative finance deal. And then, so, and
All
yeah,
because of a question. What you gonna do
Yeah.
with that 60 grand? The worst they
I
can say is
didn't-
no.
I wasn't thinking about asking that question. I
But
was
yeah,
so-
you're looking at the
I was,
$93,000
Dave.
check.
I'm staring at $93,000 going, is that right? Holy crap, is that right? So I look at that check and then when Amber asked that question, I got uncomfortable, like, and then they go, I don't know. And she goes, how about be the lender for us? I'm thinking, wow, you're bold, girl.
Well,
Here
they
we go.
just saw how the process worked, so they knew
Yeah.
we were real.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't have to sell them
Perfect
on
time. Perfect time. That
And
was
what
perfect
great
time.
people, great friends. Their son became an investor,
that.
or
We
their
get a
daughter
Christmas
rather.
ribbon every year.
Oh yeah, I talked to Chuck. He still visits the office up there in New York once in a while, meets my team. Yeah,
Nice.
so it's like you said, the value of an
The
investment.
lifetime worth. That lifetime
Lifetime worth. That's a great. I'm gonna steal that line from you. I like that.
Yeah.
The lifetime worth that investor. It's so much money. I hadn't thought of it that way, Dave. But how much money is that?
I actually created
Billions of
I
dollars.
created a calculator to figure that out.
Oof.
It is mind boggling. I'll send you guys a link for that. You can fool
Oh, I
around with
love
that.
that.
And yeah,
Sure.
it's I think what the hell? Are you guys got a few minutes?
Sure.
Why don't we see if we can make this work? And it won't be perfect, but it'll be
Sure.
pretty close. So let's see if I can share my screen here.
I hope the listeners are understanding too, that to be a good investor, the key that we're all talking about today is being resourceful.
Exactly.
So like that character trait is so big in being a successful real estate investor.
For sure. All right. What do you need from us?
All right. So let's just look at what an average price of a property, just a flip.
What price, Dave? When we buy it or when we sell it?
Let's see.
How much we're gonna need to borrow, right?
Yeah. So this might not be perfect for flips, but we'll make it as close as we can. So
What number you want
I'm
there?
going to guess this would be actually probably after repaired value.
So call it 250.
250,000.
250,000. Yeah.
This is more designed for long term, but that's all right. So we'll
Okay.
say a year. So it's the end price is 250. You're buying it at what?
Call it 100.
Oh no. Okay, so you're getting
100, 120, 100, 150, something like that, maybe. Yeah, 50%.
so yeah, let's say you're getting 50% discount. Okay.
That's probably right. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is going again, typically going for down payment, closing costs, that kind of stuff, and mortgages and all that kind of stuff. So let's just say you guys you're coming out with 100% of the money.
Yeah.
And this may or may not work, so we might have to fool around with this. But
No worries. No worries.
all right. And then you are forcing up the value of it by 50%.
Yep.
Okay, no cash flow, market appreciation, So again, we might not be. Okay, so
Interest rate, let's put like 10% over there.
yeah. Cash flow, market appreciation. This is not sounding right because we're showing up with $260,000 worth of profits. Wouldn't be making that much profit on that.
That'd be great. I don't know how that's
That would be
possible, but that.
Yeah, so let's see. Sorry, I'm floundering around with this, you guys. It's not.
No, it's no worry.
No,
If it doesn't
yeah.
work, it's no big deal.
designed. Okay.
I can tell you, for me, it's just looking at the numbers just from one investor. It's tens of millions of dollars.
Yeah, I know it's going to be crazy, but I want to get your net profit on a deal being about correct. So what are you averaging?
About 70 grand.
Okay, so let's say.
Yeah,
All
that's
right, so
fine.
let's
65. I
let's
can
say
live
it's
with that.
let's say it's that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you're making 65 grand on a deal. How many investors do you need typically for one of those kind of properties? One investor. Okay. And not taking your best investor, not taking your worst investor, what would you say are the average number of deals an investor would do with you over time, over the lifetime?
Oh, over the
relationship?
lifetime?
Yeah.
So if we have, I mean,
3 or 4 a year
yeah, probably three a year times,
times 12,
we have, that's called 12 years,
36,
36 deals. And then we're not
36
even
deals?
done yet. So let's say, I don't know.
50.
And why don't we be conservative? Why don't we take it down a notch and let's say they do 25 deals with you over time?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. Now, on average, how many referrals, and don't think at your best investors, don't think your worst, but
Yeah.
on average, how many other investors might they refer you to?
You know,
Two.
one or
two.
two for sure in that range.
1.5.
1.5 if we can.
Let's see if we can do
Split
1.5.
the difference.
There you go.
$4 million.
Your average investor, not your best one, your average investor is worth $4 million to you guys
Isn't that funny?
over the lifetime of your working relationship.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
That's pretty valuable
That's why I got
to us and to them.
You know,
Yeah.
we do, yeah, for sure. Yeah, we're big about, you know, when birthday comes, we send out birthday gifts and all that
Smart.
kind of stuff and cards and all that. We still do all that. I think it's so important we do that just to keep people in the loop. And
It's a relationship.
I send out
for
videos once
sure.
in a while, what's going on in the company and how we're doing. I keep them in the loop a little bit. Some don't even
Yeah.
care. They're
And
just like, yeah,
that's why we tell our clients, hey, you got to treat your investors like gold,
Yes.
because that's what they're worth to you guys. So again, getting back to your students and newer flippers kind of learning how to do things from you guys.
Yeah.
So they go with the path of least resistance. They're going for hard money loans at the beginning, but
At least at first.
once they start realizing that it's way better probably for them to work
Yeah.
with private lenders, what are they typically getting started doing, or what are you recommending that they do? The same thing that you guys did?
Same exact thing we did.
Nice.
So yeah, in our student portal, we have a packet that's all made, that's all white labeled. They can just put their picture on there and their
Like a
stories. Yeah, template, and they can just send that out. And we just encourage them to do that. You know, I don't know how many do it. We are going to get a little more strict on, not strict, but encouraging on getting them to do that. Because now in today's market, you know, money's getting tighter to find. It's going to be tighter for a while. I think Fed has just dropped the rates a quarter, or they're about to, who knows, they're all over the place. But I think that I think a lot of people, you know, if I could do a shameless plug for our book, you know, it's the birth of the everyday real estate investor, right? How real estate, not stocks, create wealth. And then I think a lot of people are saying, yeah, the stock market sucks right now. Like they don't like the ups. If you like the ups and downs, go for it. Godspeed.
And
But not everybody does.
This reminds us of when we started, because when we started in 07, 08, everybody was like, get out of real estate, the sky is falling. And today is, you know, we're having economy different, you know, for different reasons.
Yeah.
The changes are happening, interest rates are going up, that sort of thing. But it just reminds us of those times and how there's still opportunity available for people that want to get involved in real estate. And the methods might need to be different, like Glenn mentioned, doing subject twos and trying to do those assumable loans and situations like that. So, but there's always opportunity in real estate. So what we always say is, you know, don't listen to the masses.
They have a silent M. That's what I always call it.
Right?
And it takes people a minute. So yeah.
It took half a second for that to really.
The reason we were successful at first is it was working for us. Like we weren't listening to the news. We weren't listening to the naysayers. We were profitable. We were doing really, really well at getting started, even when everybody was saying run from it.
Yeah.
So there's still opportunity. You just have to know how to go about it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. No, you guys, this has been fantastic. Time flies when we're having fun. So people want to find out more about Glenn and Amber Schworm. What should they do?
The best way to find us is to go to glennandamber.com. That's glennandamber.com. And that has links to
all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, our website, our book, our social media, our podcast, all that good
There
stuff.
is one fun thing I'll tell you about if your listeners go there on our website on that glennandamber.com is a show that we produced last year called The Big Flipping Break. And we took a couple that he's a pastor and she's a stay-at-home mom. We were their private money lenders and we gave them all the money for the deal. We coached them through the whole thing and we recorded the whole thing professionally.
Nice.
And then we took them through the whole journey and we ended up splitting. The deal was we split the profit at the end, but there's a secret hidden component in the show is that we're actually schooling them to see if we want to lend our money to them, just like people did to us going forward.
Right.
They just bought 2 more houses this week. So I had to scramble to get some cash together for them. But we are now their private bankers, because of what we've built, we're paying it back. But that show takes right through a journey. So if your listeners want, it's 8 episodes, something entertaining. It's a pretty cool, cool show. It's on YouTube, but it's a pretty cool show. And it's called The Big Flipping Break. So if they want to see a real live couple, what it's not HGTV flipping, what it's really like flipping. I get attacked by a squirrel. Even David's sister passed away during filming of all this. It was real stuff. It wasn't like raw, those shows drive.
It wasn't condensed into half an hour.
No, and it's all raw. I made a big mistake. Oh, I only made 150 grand. Oh, shut up. I'm sick of those shows. Shut up. So let's have some reality. We had buried old tanks, all kinds of crazy stuff happened. So it was good. So if they want to, it's kind of a fun journey.
You guys, thank you so much. This has been great.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us, Dave.
All right, everybody, take care, and we'll see you on the next episode. This episode is brought to you by MoneyPartnerFormula.com. Our Money Partner Formula service allows you to raise all the private capital you need to do all the deals you want while we handle the hard stuff. We offer reliable and affordable done-for-you marketing services that get you investor meetings booked without all the work. So go ahead and check out the website right now, and then feel free to schedule a call with me, and let's take your portfolio to the next level. Again, that's moneypartnerformula.com. Watch investor meetings pop up in your calendar. We handle the rest.